I do indeed have two practices in Ontario, Canada, and one in La Jolla, California now. So I commute. The two secrets to be able to do that, one is a total embrace of digital orthodontics, as in absolutely everything is digital. The other secret is amazing people on the ground in all three of those places. And I've been so fortunate. So that has allowed me a wonderful life.
Hello there, everybody, and welcome to another episode of your Orthopreneurs Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Glenn Krieger. And today, we have something very, very interesting. I mean, we always have interesting people, but we have someone who's a friend and genuinely one of the nicest human beings I've ever come across in my life. You're going to learn a lot, probably a little bit about clear aligners. You're going to learn a little bit about international relations. Oh, that sounds exciting. But let me bring him into the show here. Dr. Bruce McFarlane, welcome, my friend.
Hey, Glenn, nice to see you. Thank you.
Yeah, it's so great to see you. And you know, there are times I bring people on the show who I've never met before, but they've become highly recommended from somebody. There are times I bring people in from companies that I've never, spoken to. I'm truly fortunate and happy today that we have you, because you're one of those people I don't get to talk to enough, and at least this will suffice for a little while. You know, for those out there who don't know, I met Bruce originally. Was it Henry Schein KOL Insight
Yes.
meeting?
Mhm.
Yeah, that was what I'm guessing 8 years ago, give or take, 9 years ago.
I think
It
so,
was
Glenn. Yes.
it was a while ago.
Yeah.
And what impressed me the most about you, Bruce, is that we were in a room with some really bright people. I mean, I will gladly state that I was the dumbest person in
I
that
don't
room.
think so, Glenn.
I'm thrilled to say that out loud. There were some, I won't mention names, but you'd probably agree. There were some pretty smart people in that room, right?
Yeah.
And 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 I would say that you were up there among all of them. But the thing that impressed me the most is that you neither need to be seen as or to be heard as the smartest person in the room. Um, you're so deliberate in the way you speak about things. You're so genial and kind. And when you speak, what you talk about has so much wisdom, in my opinion. But you don't need everybody to know that you're the smartest person in the room. It just doesn't. And that impressed me so much about you. And
Thank you.
so I'm really excited to have you here today.
Such nice words. Thank you. I'm delighted to be here.
Well, I'm only saying it because it's true. Now, he is Canadian, folks. So, you know, you might want to turn your volume up about 30% to 40% right now based on
It's gonna get
exchange rates. You're only going to get 70% of him based on the
oh,
current trade values. Sorry,
okay.
Bruce, I had to hit that there. But now's a good time, folks, in Buffalo. Cross the border and go pick up some Molson. Um, I went to school in Buffalo. Bruce is Ontario native. Can I use that word?
Yeah, sure.
Native.
Yes.
And so, for those of you who may not have been in Buffalo for any period of time, Toronto and Buffalo are neighbors. You cross any number of bridges to get into Canada, and you would go across for two reasons when you were in dental school. One of which was the beer. I won't mention the second. As my instructors used to call it, they'll just call it the Canadian Ballet. But we would cross the border to get Molson because Molson beer in Canada had a higher alcohol percentage than Molson
Yes.
beer. Right? Am I crazy here?
Nope, that's it, Glenn, for sure.
And anybody who's ever seen a Bill, what's his name, the Mackenzie, Bob and Doug
Bob
Mackenzie
and Doug,
movie,
yes. McKenzie.
what exists in Canada as well, and are they still there? Are the beer stores, but the ones where
Yes.
they roll it out from the back? Do those
Yes.
still exist?
They honestly do. Yeah, there's
Uh,
one just down the street from where I am right now.
if you don't know what I'm talking about, folks, at some point in your life, you need to experience a Canadian beer store. Would you agree with me on this, Bruce?
Sounds great, Glenn.
Yes. So anyway, at this point in the game, let Bruce actually talk a little bit about himself, because here I am reminiscing about beer in Toronto. So tell us a little bit about, you have such an intricate story considering where you practice now, both in the US and in Canada. You practices in both. You're one of the few people I know who does that. Let's start here. Tell everybody a little bit about how you ended up where you are today, however you want to take us there.
Okay. So thank you, Glenn. And I think my story is mainly I've always been kind of chasing the latest thing, and that has led me in orthodontics to some great directions, including, of course, the advent of I was I was way back, even as straight wire was getting to be a thing, and then of course along came clear aligners, and so I think that my path has always been trying to be on the leading or sometimes bleeding edge of all of that,
Yeah.
and it's just made for such an exciting career. My how did you say binational or multinational? My
Semi-national.
binational. Okay, we can say that.
All I know is you're paying taxes to both Canada and the U.S. You're going to
Right.
work till you're 100. Every day you make $1, you owe $1.07 to somebody.
I do. I do. But so clearly you don't do this for the money, but no. So it's crazy, but I was in grade 12. That's what we say in Canada. I think it's 12th grade in the United States. And I went on a high school trip, and I went to uh, San Diego, California, and I looked around and I said, someday I'm going to live here. And it took a while for sure. And like you, Glenn, I practiced a while as a general dentist, and then went back to graduate school in London, Ontario, which is close to Toronto. You'll probably recall,
I do.
and then that was 33 years ago, and it's hard to believe actually.
Wow.
And uh, and so the path that I've taken has always been sort of to try and be on the edge of the latest technology and try and learn it and be uh, really proficient in it. And that's really kept the fire in my belly. And of course, up until this very day, it continues to drive me. I do indeed have two practices in Ontario, Canada, and one in La Jolla, California now. So I
Wow.
commute. Yeah.
That's amazing.
So the two secrets to be able to do that, one is a total embrace of digital orthodontics, as in absolutely everything is digital. I can pretty well do everything except IPR uh, uh, remotely.
Please put your face in the machine and hold still.
Right. So the joke is, I come to town and I'm the stripper. But bad one.
Yeah, between
Uh,
teeth. You
Betray teeth.
strip
Yeah, that's
between
it. That's
teeth.
it. Thank
Between
you.
teeth.
Nothing related to your previous story about Buffalo to Toronto. Uh, and then the other secret is amazing people on the ground in all three of those places. And I've been so fortunate, Glenn. I know these days it's trickier to find talented individuals, inspire them, hold on to them, and have them buy into your dream. But in that regard, I've been so fortunate. So that has allowed me a wonderful life. So I spend
Beautiful.
time in Ontario and California, and but mostly on airplanes.
Yeah, and the good, you need a private jet, you
Right.
know.
That's
Um,
yes.
but let's dive into a few of the things you talked about because you did hit a lot of really good topics here that are passion projects of my own. Let's start first with being a GP. When you came out of dental school, right? Did you know that you wanted to become an orthodontist, or is it something that evolved after graduation? And either way, what was it that drove you to want to be an orthodontist?
Okay. Thank you, Glenn. I always wanted to be an oral surgeon, and
Wow.
I got out of uh, dental school, and I did one of those little practice residency things that you do at a hospital, and I had some insight into hospitals and politics and surgery times and the sort of turf war that goes on between the various medical and dental profession disciplines. And I went, yeah, no. And in the meantime, I had had a wonderful experience as a child, um, as an orthodontic patient. And my orthodontist was amazing, a 0-0 guy, band on every tooth. And I watched him with incredible precision putting in first, second, and third order bends until the wire looked like like
Wow.
40 miles of bad road. And I was just so inspired by him. And when I graduated, I bought his practice. So I'm like the shaver guy. I was so impressed. I bought the company, and he was just like, and I think it was. fellows like him, Dr. Louis Smolowski was his name, in Winnipeg, Canada, who I looked at, and later on in his life and in his career, he was still so excited and so keen about orthodontics. And I'm now kind of at that point at 33 years, and I'm still like absolutely loving what we do, Glenn. And it keeps me inspired every day, and I'm determined to remain challenged and embrace all of the latest.
It's beautiful. Yeah, it's a great thing. You know, you and I spoke before we came on air, and I said to you, you know, I envy your passion, but understand it. Because as anybody's heard me talk, I treat orthodontics as a transactional thing, right? People come to my office, they pay me to straighten their teeth or their children's teeth. I do it with a smile on my face, enjoying it along the way, knowing that they're paying me and I'm going to render a service to them back. And to me, there's not a lot more to it than that, right? Part of it is because I got my yayas out as a general dentist, where I dove down the rabbit hole to become the absolute greatest I could possibly be, and realized there was a point at which my patients didn't appreciate it as much, right? I hit a level of expertise and outcome that was beyond necessarily what my patients even needed, right? And so in ortho, it's been able to temper my enthusiasm a little bit. But I envy how much you love doing ortho, because to you, it's a craft. It's a part of who you are. It's part of your fabric. And as we figured out as we were talking about it, that's how I feel about helping my fellow orthodontists. I like doing ortho the same way I like doing entrepreneurs and podcasts and helping people grow their practices the way you love helping make smiles, right? Which is what makes us leap out of bed when the alarm strikes 4:30 or 5 or whatever.
Right.
By the way, what time do you wake up in the morning? I'm curious.
I'm a 7:15 guy.
Oh God, Bruce, you're killing me. So then the opposite question: what time do you go to bed?
Yeah, so usually around 11 or so.
Okay,
Yeah,
you're sane. You're normal. You
yeah,
go to bed at a reasonable hour and wake up at a reasonable hour.
yeah.
Wow. I was honestly, the way I know you, it would not have surprised me if you told me you go to bed at like 3 in the morning and wake up at 7:15. Like
Well,
I just
I
you
don't sleep.
strike
I'm
me
usually
like
thinking.
that.
Yeah, I'm usually thinking all night. So you're right, Glenn. Pretty well.
So clear aligners are a passion for you. So I think I know your history a little bit, but give people a little history about when you started with clear aligners, like how far back it was. Because you know, in your intro right now, you were talking about bending first, second, third degree, you know,
Yeah.
order bends into wires. When was like what year would you say you started with clear aligners? And I know you're the
So,
digital guy. We'll get into digital in just a minute.
yeah.
But you know, I guess my question is, when did you start with it? And where would you say the turning point was in the clear aligner world, where we went from, and then what, I mean, I've only been in ortho for 11 years now, but even in my 11-year time period, I'd be curious to know if you would agree. There was a point where we sort of flipped, where if you asked people, do you do aligners? A large percent, well, they suck. I really don't use them. I don't like to use them very much, to where it's almost impossible for me to find a practice now that doesn't do at least some reasonable amount. I'm sure they exist, and I'm not pointing fingers. I'm not trying to make anybody feel shamed. But if I were to ask 100 orthodontists I know, do you do aligners? The answer would be yes for 100 orthodontists. They may not do 100 cases a year, but they know how to do them. They're doing a fair amount. Where would you say that line crossed? And do you agree with that?
Okay. Wow, Glenn, thank you. That's a bit to unpack. My history is 1997. I sat with Zia Chisti and Kelsey Worth, Ross Miller, Tim Dumore, and a few others around a table in San Francisco. And we looked at these pieces of clear plastic sitting on the table, and we went, "Now."
So you saw a line, you
At
saw
the
Invisalign
absolute
before
beginning.
it was Invisalign.
Absolute beginning. Yes.
Wow,
Yeah, yeah. So that was a
that's
great moment.
incredible.
And they had this it was awful name, but we became the Alpha Group, and we were charged with taking this from just pretty well an idea to something that was clinically relevant. And I agree with you that it took a while, and even gosh, even as far as the late 20 teens, I still wasn't super satisfied with a lot of the case outcomes. And so I'm I'm a real hybrid guy, as in anything that I see that just isn't going to happen with clear aligners, I'll admit that sooner than later, and I'll use fixed devices. That includes the transverse, AP, and anything else that looks like it's going to be difficult for aligners. But so it'll still satisfy the patient's desire, because the vast majority of my adult patients come in, they want clear aligners. But I also want to pretty well be able to look them in the eye and say, hey, I'm going to do exactly what I could have done with braces, with a full set of braces for you. But at first, you're also going to have, this expander or these carrier motion devices to solve the problems that clear aligners alone can't.
Right.
So I would say that has helped me sort of tip my clear aligner cases to where I want them to be, and that kind of happened in the 20 teens. And then since then, I've been on these these sort of missions, Glenn, to really decrease three things. The number of aligners drives me absolutely crazy when I get a prediction back and there's like 82 aligners or something like that. That's crazy. The number of attachments, and the vast majority of my cases right now, I'm starting without any attachments. I'm using ClearCorrect, and with their trim lines and their grip and a few other things that we're playing with, I'm able to start the vast majority of my cases without any attachments whatsoever. And then I have the teeth tell me, oh, okay, yep, that canine didn't come down, that lateral didn't move. Yeah, I'll put an attachment on, but I won't start with 16 of them and do the shotgun.
It's interesting.
And IPR.
That's so different than the approach with. I'm going to table a question that I'm going to ask you now that we'll talk about when you're done with the segment.
Okay.
But it's the difference between the material and the clinician. But we'll hit that in a moment. I just want to throw that out there now. But please continue. We're going to talk about IPR.
Thank you. Yeah, so those are the three that I'm after. Fewer aligners, and I'm sort of now that I'm in California, I'm an environmentalist too. So that's a lot of single-use plastic.
An environmentalist, I hope, in Canada as well.
Right? Yes, also in Canada. So way fewer aligners, and therefore that means don't ask the aligners to do things like sequential distalization. Those two words are a loony in the swear jar in our office. We do not do sequential distalization.
A loony
in the swear jar,
I don't. A loony is a bird, correct?
That's it. Yeah, it's our dollar coin. Yeah,
it's a coin, right? Because it's the bird that's on the dollar coin, right? Is a loony.
Yes.
Geez, Louise, talk about an opaque, an obscure reference in the project. That's the most. It's a loony in a swear jar. I'm going to pull that one out at dinner tonight.
Okay, man. There you go.
It's a loony in a swear.
Actually, there's
everybody in Canada right now is probably like, duh. So anyway, sorry there, Bruce. So
we don't do sequential distalization.
You're doing that with a motion appliance.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. But I'll start also with sectional aligners too. So for instance, a class 2, we'll start with sort of upper 3 to 3 aligners, and then carry our motion behind them and full aligners on the bottom. So the idea is get the most done, get the most going as early as you possibly can. And then you do the heavy lifting first while the patient is still kind of keen on all of this. And then you're finishing everyone from a class 1 platform. And you and I think, are believers in that. Yeah. So fewer aligners. The attachments, I don't like them. Patients don't like them. My team doesn't like them. So we've really come up with this thing now where we simply just say no to attachments. And it's crazy how much aligners can do. One of the big things I watch for is sequencing, as in, don't even try to move a tooth until there's room. Like, it's sort of like a 4th grader could figure that out, but an aligner algorithm can't always. And they start moving teeth into like zero space, and of course they're going to lose tracking. So what we say is, that lateral that's in anterior crossbite, right. Don't even think about moving that. Like, do not go there at all. Give me 0.3 of a millimeter on either side of that tooth. Then you can wrap it with plastic. You can get the full contact with that tooth, and then you can bring it forward and torque it as well. So That's been a big one for me to avoid attachments. And then IPR, and Glenn, you and I never used as much IPR when we were doing just braces. And it seems like it's become like a crutch.
It
I,
is.
I don't I don't like it. Like I don't like taking away healthy enamel. Of course, we'll use it for black triangles and finishing and
Right.
that sort of thing. But so those are my three soapboxes that I've been
It's
after.
okay. I
And
agree with you. And the IPR issue is interesting to me because everything you just spoke about, I started um, Invisalign as a GP
yes,
in about 2001,
okay,
2002. But I only used it to help set up my restorative cases because I knew exactly where I wanted the lateral. I knew exactly where I wanted the cuspid. And I assumed incorrectly that Invisalign was making all the right choices, the way GPs today incorrectly assume that it's making the right choices. And so I look now on my account, I can see the 4 dozen cases I did as a GP back in 2002 to 2008 or so, give or take, 2007. And then I turned it all over to my ortho and let them handle it. And I was just restorative. But the interesting thing when you look at it, it took me probably as an ortho 3 to 5 years of, I took with Maz and Jonathan. I learned
yeah,
from a lot of other great people out there,
yes,
folks like
me too,
you.
me
I did
too,
the motion a huge amount. I used to speak for you. That's how we got to know each other
yes,
and realized all the things you spoke about. And so when it comes to, if I were going to talk to a young orthodontist today about clear aligners, I would tell them when it comes to IPR, they're going to default to making it easier, right?
yeah,
At the expense of enamel. And the first thing I always do is look at the Bolton analysis and
yes,
say, if the Bolton analysis, like there's an upper and lower difference of 0.2 millimeters, why does it have me taking away zero point 0.4 millimeters off 6 lower front teeth? I am creating the Bolton discrepancy.
yes,
I am creating the Bolton discrepancy that will be harder for me to finish, or I'll end up with more overbite than I want later on, right? And so I agree with you 100%. Don't I always tell them I use arch circumference a
yes,
lot to widen things up and say don't move the lower anterior teeth until there's spacing
right,
from posterior expansion. And the first 20 aligners could be just expansion of the posterior, increasing torque, not just pushing teeth.
yes.
And and again, I think you and I are speaking the same language, right? Yeah. I
Thank you
mean,
very
the
much.
things I just said, do you agree with those, Bruce?
Yes, absolutely, and I'm hoping that'll be my you and I's legacy, Glenn. That we that we and I'm just
You can have that legacy. It's all yours,
okay. Oh,
Bruce.
thank you.
When people say Glenn and Bruce changed ortho, I just take Glenn away. Bruce
Okay.
changed ortho.
Oh, thank you. Way back in 25. Yeah.
Yeah,
And,
back in 2025,
25.
because they'll be talking about this into the fourth millennia, right?
Right. Okay, Glenn.
3125 will be like 1,000 years ago. Glenn and Bruce changed ortho.
I love it.
It'll be like
Awesome.
Bill and Ted, Wild Stallions. Uh, but you talked about being digital,
Yes.
and I think this year at Summit we have a number of people talking about digital technology, and I think we finally hit the page or the spot in ortho where digital technology really does mean changing your practice to where you don't need to go out and hire. You can have a $2 million practice and have three total employees or four total employees. You don't need to have that team of 10 or 12 for a $3 million practice anymore.
Yeah.
And so can you explain to everybody what you view as the digital? I think the words I wrote down is just digital ortho,
Yes.
right? You do digital ortho. Can you explain to everybody what that really means in your practices?
Okay. Thank you, Glenn. That too has been an evolution. My first practice was a traditional 11 chair, 15 team analog practice, and I figured out that I was just chasing my tail all day, and of course got to the point where it couldn't actually be sold to a single individual because it became such a monster. So I sold it to a DSO, and that was another story that we could save for another day. But then I made this very conscious decision of being an absolute sort of boutique style. And here in Kenora, I have three team members. I have four chairs, and I actually, uh, it's delightful. I actually sit with a child and I shoot the breeze and I say, and we talk about, hockey, of course, in Canada. And and it's such a refreshingly wonderful way to practice. Part of it is when I'm not here, I have talented individuals in Ontario. Hygienists can work independently, so when I'm not here, they will gather all of my records, and they can do other duties on their own as well, under my sort of standing orders or specific orders. And so quite often I've actually not even met the patient by the time they're started, um,
Wow.
because and I thought at first it was going to be an issue because people might be concerned that, who is this guy? Is he AI or is he? uh, but it turns out that the amount of flexibility, therefore, that we're allowed to offer people, like you don't just have to come when McFarlane's there. You can come another time, get all of your scans, and of course, the given with digital. Um, Ortho is that every record is digital as well, of course,
Right.
and nothing sort of paper or analog or alginated or anything like that. And so therefore, I can be anywhere in the world, literally, that has a Wi-Fi connection, and I can do what I think is a great job of setting up the cases, communicating with the patient, and and then still I see them physically, of course, but sometimes not right at the beginning.
That's amazing. So what technology are you using? Obviously, digital scanner.
Yep.
Uh, I guess before I have you answer that, what percentage of your practice would you say are braces, and what percentage are aligners?
Right. So this, of course, this system lends itself best to clear aligners. So
Right.
I'm about 60% of the what they call share of chair with
Sheriff
with
chair.
clear aligners. Yeah. But I still do a lot of braces, and I still enjoy it. I am a fixed in the mixed guy, so I'm not a big fan of clear aligners in the little ones because of all of the issues with teeth changing over, baby teeth not being great or hugely retentive, and the child himself just not quite ready for that level of responsibility. And, and the kids still love, the colors and everything like that. So we get a kick out of that. I do a ton of expansion as well, and that's all fixed devices in the mixed dentition. Sean Carlson, I'm such a big fan of that guy, and I've watched the creation of his cases especially in the transverse dimension, and I'm absolutely in awe of his level. Uh, the other side of it now is CBCT, of course, imaging,
Right.
which can prove to us that we are having some success with things we didn't quite expect at first.
Yeah.
Airway, tongue space, and all those sorts of things. And it's, I always say to the parent, it's hard for me to overstate how important this is for your child at this moment in their life, because they'll never have the problems because we're doing this now. But you
Right.
got to know that there's a lot of people later on in life that struggle. And here's my gift to your child at this moment in their life. So I guess that's the story. Digital as possible, but still, yes.
Yeah.
See braces.
You did say a dirty word there. You're gonna have to put a loony in the swear jar. You did say the word airway, which is a
Oh,
dirty word. Yeah, go find the swear jar. Go put your loony. I don't think I've ever told
I have a
anybody.
toonie. I have a toonie.
Go put your loony in the swear jar. That can be taken so many different ways. I'm just going to leave it there. Uh, do what you
Excellent.
want with your loony. My question for you is this.
Okay.
Um, initially, just simple yes or no, you're an advocate of helping the airway form, expand, whatever you want to use in the pediatric population?
Yes.
Good. I know the answer already because I know you. I feel like that's another place we've tipped where it used to be, and I still see it every now and then. I remember I got into a somewhat heated debate with some of the entrepreneurs a couple of years ago where I said, I think in this day and age, it is nearly unconscionable for an orthodontist to not at least look at airway,
Yep.
right? I wouldn't call it malpractice, but I would call it nearly unconscionable for an orthodontist not to at least assess the airway because we have a CBCT when they're in the office. We can ask simple questions And there was an orthodontist who said, no, I don't. Not my business. We're overstepping our bounds. It's not our area. We're not trained in it. And it really bothered me. And I think we've gotten to the point now where that feeling is much, much more in the minority. And I do think there are people, especially a lot of GPs, who are taking Airway as a profit center way too far.
Yes.
But every kid who comes into my practice in the mixed dentition and even older, I'm asking the basic questions. So I know you're an advocate for this as well. If someone was listening right now and said, geez, I didn't realize I was so far behind the curve. I have a CBCT, but I don't really look at Airway. What would you tell them they could start doing tomorrow in their practice to help kids do better from a diagnostic perspective?
Yeah. Oh, great, Glenn. The answer is like you said, ask a lot of questions. A young child who snores it's not normal. That have a look around. Ask mom about, is your child sleepy during the day? Are they sleeping well? Um, have a look down their throat. Like, have a look at their tonsils and ask a lot of questions close to the airway. And the other thing that we have started to embrace a little bit more these days is myo functional therapy as well.
Yep.
So not just widen the palate in the interest of the nasal airway, but also I've come to appreciate the importance of things like tongue space and swallow patterns and frena. That one too. I think, like you have stated, Glenn, has gone too far in certain disciplines of dentistry, and so I feel like everything has its place, and you should stay in the lane of what's already sort of been proven, and has some good science behind it. But generally, yeah, for sure. And it's anecdotal, of course, but a lot of parents come back and they go, "Oh my God, like this
I know.
like
I know. It's crazy.
yeah,
Our RD group, our Orthopreneurs RD group, our mastermind, we've been to Stanford Airway team twice. We've gone to California 2 separate times, maybe three at this point, to work with the Stanford Airway team really personally as a group with them. And the literature is so incredible, how crystal clear it is, that when I came back, my ENT and I, who came with me to Stanford twice, we did a grand rounds for all the pediatricians of the Dallas medical community. And when we were done with our lit review of everything we saw out there, all from peer-reviewed literature, pediatricians came up to me and said, I had no idea. I had one pediatrician trained at Harvard, and he came to me and he said, oh my God, I never saw any of this stuff. Give me more paper. They gave more papers. We had lunch. He came back to me and said, I've never seen this before. Why didn't I learn this? And I said to him, well, it's because you went to a crappy institution. I mean, you went to Harvard. What did you? I joke, of course. When they say they go to Harvard, I go, where? What school? I haven't heard. Harvard. But joking aside, he was a mirror for what I heard the whole time, which was the pediatrician saying, why didn't we learn this? It's the first question I always get when I send them literature from really, really high-powered journals, with great indices, so to speak, that they look at, New England Journal of Medicine, Sleep. I like real journals that show real things going on with kids, and ADH, not ADHD, but antidiuretic hormone, and nocturnal enuresis, and why this is playing a role, and all this stuff already. And my point in all of this is, if you're on the fence and you're listening to this, send me a message. Let's talk. Because as Bruce said, you will do this, and while all the naysayers tell you you're over-treating, and you won't be, because you'll be careful and you'll be smart, you'll hear all the parents come back to your practice and tell you, my kid is doing better in school. The bedwetting is stopped. They're able to pay attention better. I had one father, after just an expander for a crossbite, I wasn't doing it for Airway. I did the expander for crossbite, and the dad was sitting at the end of the chair, and we were just schmoozing while I was working.
Yeah.
And I said, by the way, we opened up his nasal floor a bit. I saw the CBCT. I said, yeah, it opened up a fair amount, and he could probably breathe a whole lot better. And the father goes, that explains it. I said, explains what? He said, it used to break my heart that when he'd be running with the other kids in his class, he couldn't keep up. And I couldn't explain or understand why, but in the last couple of months, all of a sudden at research, when he's running with all the kids. And I said, oh, I said, I would never like market, hey, run faster,
Right.
but kids bringing in more oxygen, he's performing at a different level. And the father didn't tell me that ahead of time. He only said it sort of after the fact, right? And so, well, let's call it post hoc, right? And we're running a study. And so at the end of the day, the um, the impact we're making on these kids' lives is incredible. I know numerous practices who do good airway, I wouldn't say focused, but they keep it in mind,
Yes.
orthodontics,
Yes.
and their practices are booming and the kids are doing great.
Yeah.
And moms refer like you cannot believe, because once they see you helped one kid, they come in and you're honest and fair about what you think you can achieve,
Yes.
right? And again, pick it up from there, Bruce. Would you agree with this?
Okay. No, all of the above, Glenn. And I've seen it. And I think, like all things, things go too much the other way. Like I've seen some of these pretty nasty things, like the posterior tongue release, and all those kinds of things that maybe are a little bit overkill. But like you say, if we stick to the science and we watch and we pay attention, I honestly think there there's some good things that happen. And if you actually were an absolute non-believer, but you love wide smiles, then do it for that reason, but also pay attention, to
Yeah,
what's happening with the other aspects of that child's life.
yeah, it's truly amazing how it helps. And so,
So cool.
as we wrap this up,
Okay.
um, any fun passion projects you're working for the future? Anything exciting on the horizon? Any new digital technologies that get you excited?
Wow. Okay. So Glenn, I'm excited right now because I am in uh, a group with a prosthodontist and an oral radiologist, and she's a surgeon as well in La Jolla at the San Diego Dental Health Center, and they have taken occlusion to the fourth dimension. So
Oh,
this is
time.
ModJaw, and this thing is out of this world. It brings everything together. The three-dimensional imaging, and all of the scanner and everything comes together into this ModJaw device, and it measures and observes not just static occlusion, but it watches the patient in function and all of their excursions. And so it helps them and me to take our finishes to the absolute next level. And I'm just so excited about. I'm really early on this, but I think that is going to be so cool. And I honestly believe, and you can tell me if you also agree, Glenn, that all of those details of occlusion, which in certain circles have kind of come and gone as far as
Yeah.
importance, uh, they lead to long-term stability as well. So I hate fixed retainers. I would much rather fit everything together so well that the teeth actually wanna stay there, and in 3 and 4 dimensions they're actually working so well against each other.
Yeah.
So that's my latest thing, and that's what's kicking me in the pants these days.
That's exciting. I love the idea of it. I'm an ethologist by training. I got made fun of by many orthos for that. I was made fun of on ortho interviews when they saw my 3 years of nathological training on my CV. And to anybody out there who wants to sort of poo-poo occlusion, you can finish with aligners with a slightly open posterior occlusion,
Yes.
and it will settle 98% of the time, 99% of the time. Eventually, everything will settle and it'll be great in 99% of the population. But you don't know who that 1% is going to be
Yeah.
until they are, right? And that's the way I was taught about occlusion, was that balancing interferences, mutually protected occlusion,
Yes.
all the stuff we talk about all the time is only important to that very, very small minority of cases that are going to end up keeping you up at night.
Yeah.
The overwhelming majority of cases, they don't care if you have a balancing interference. They don't care if you have a working interference. They don't care if you don't have cuspid rise. They don't care if you don't have anterior disclusion. You get away with this stuff. The let's use the big word of the day. It's not loony. The stomatognathic system
Yes. Okay.
has so much give in it
Yes.
that allows adaptation.
Yes.
But if I
Until
were
it
to
doesn't,
ask you,
right?
if I were to ask you, Bruce, in your 33 years of practice,
Yes.
your 6 years as a GP
Yes.
doing Crown and Bridge,
Yes.
the cases that kept you up at night the most that were not behavioral, they weren't people being emotional, they weren't people being nasty or mean. It wasn't a behavioral driven stay up at night, which we all have,
Yes.
that one parent or that one patient who just won't leave you alone. But the cases that left you up at night were probably always occlusion based. Why
Yes.
do they keep breaking porcelain? Why does your jaw always hurting? Why do they get a clicking and popping all of a sudden? Why is the bite not stable anymore? Right? Would you agree with that?
Yes. Yes,
Yeah.
Glenn. And it's, and you're absolutely right. Way back when Ron Roth came up to Detroit, and then and we would go down to Mercia and listen to him, and he always talked about orth- orthodontics is full mouth rehabilitation in your natural teeth. So things like in some programs they weren't even getting a hold of second molars. Like to us, that we're fortunate enough to be exposed to Ronald Roth, that was blasphemy if you did not line up your second molars. And like, of course, it's so close to the fulcrum. And I agree with you, Glenn, that it a lot of the system is forgiving until it's not, and then it gets messy and it gets ugly, and these people suffer. And I fear for all of the posterior open bites now that are running around out there, and even if it's a small percentage of them, have we actually iatrogenically caused trouble that we're going to see 10, 15 years down the road?
Yeah, if it doesn't settle, right? Sometimes you start a posterior lateral tongue thrust
Yeah,
because you've kept it open posterior bite.
yeah,
But the takeaway from this one, and Bruce, you're a Roth guy.
yes,
The best orthodontist I know, and I never trained with him, but I trained with the people who trained, basically, who developed the trainings for Ron Roth.
yeah,
This will blow people away, and I think the Roth docs are the best orthodontists I've ever met. Not just because they're occlusion, but they're so committed to certain outcomes.
yes,
Right? I'll say this: this is gonna, for orthodontists listening right now, this is Nathology 101. So when people like, I think it was Lyle Johnson, I was once introduced to online as saying that Nathology is a study of articulators.
yes.
I don't know. I think it was Lyle Johnson. I don't think it was.
That
I
was
think
him.
it
He
was
said, "How articulators chew." Yeah.
how articulators chew, which is an
Okay.
insulting comment, right? Anybody who thinks that that's the case, I'm going to throw this at you right now. And Bruce, chime in at any point if you'd like to. When we talk about a posterior open bite, what does it mean is unsupported? I was going to ask people, what is unsupported in a posterior occlusion bite? The joint is unsupported. Why? Because the posterior teeth give support to the condyle
Yes.
by allowing the teeth to take the brunt of the force. When you make something like an NTI, which is a scaled down version of a Lucia jig,
Yes.
a Lucia jig was an upper 3-3 acrylic splint, which I still make to this day, chair side, really fast, to assess an occlusal. You're assessing a myofascial problem,
Yes.
not a joint problem.
Yes.
You would never make a Lucia jig for somebody with a joint problem.
Right.
You make a Lucia jig when somebody has a CR to maximum intercuspation shift,
Yes.
and you think that shift is causing lateral pterygoid and masseteric problems that are causing them myofascial pain. Agree with that so far,
Yes.
Bruce,
So
right?
far, so good.
All
Yes.
right. So and for those of you out listening, I don't know what he's talking about. One day, I promise, I will come up with an occlusion course to help explain this to people and give you a day and a half of occlusion so you understand what's going on. But my point is, you make a Lucia jig to test for myofascial pain, and literally in one night, someone will call you back the next day and go, "Oh my God, all my pain is gone." That tells you right there and then that yes, in fact, there's some interferences. And if you can do it a full occlusal equilibration and solve it, wonderful. If you can't, you need orthodontics, right? But the
Yes.
problem is a Lucia jig is contraindicated in people with joint problems.
Yes.
Because what you're doing when you make a Lucia jig is the front teeth are touching, the posterior teeth are not. The way the fulcrum works, the masseteric sling pulls down and everything, and you're seating your condyle 100% with no support from the
Right.
posterior,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
You're agreeing with everything I'm saying.
Yeah.
I need you to testify that what I'm saying here is actually scientifically correct, right?
Yes.
So when we finish people with posterior open bites, which I, raising my hand, do as well when I select which patients I'm allowing it in,
Mm-hmm.
knowing based upon my criteria of looking at their occlusion. Yours may be different out there, folks. But when I finish them with a posterior open bite, just a little bit that I know is going to settle in rather than keep them in aligners and try to close it down over the neck
Yes.
and chasing my tail, in a low angle person who
Yes.
I know is going to close this bite down in literally 3 months,
Yes.
I'm a lot less concerned about it than my high angle patients who may not ever close it down. Again, part of pathology here, as we know. So my point in all of this is you need to know occlusion, as Bruce was referring to, because it allows you. I loved what you said, and I'm just going to turn it a little bit. It allows you that fourth dimension of understanding when you can and when you can't. And the can and the can't apply to 1,000 things in ortho.
Yes.
When can you and when can't you? Right? That's the big key. And John Coyce used to talk about rats versus cows as chewers. Did
Yes.
you ever learn that one, Bruce?
Yeah.
Right? You have
Yeah.
your vertical chewers and your horizontal chewers.
Yes.
And what you get away with in one, you can't get away with in the
Really?
other. And so,
Curious.
again, I love the way you look at occlusion. I respect it so much.
Thank you.
I think that's missing in today's ortho world is an occlusion course taught by an orthodontist who understands occlusion to let people understand the value of occlusion. So I hope the project you're working on helps spread the word to orthodontists. And is there a place they can learn more about it
Yeah.
yet?
Yeah. Okay, Glenn. Thank you. So the website is at San Diego Dental Health Center .com. So that's a lot of
San Diego Dental Health
center.com.
Center.com.
Yeah. And I think one version of the website is just sddhc.com. And you'll see on there my partners, the prosthodontist and the radiologist, and they're of course further along with this ModJaw thing, but they do a lot of courses. You have to travel to La Jolla, California.
Oh my God, that sounds horrible. I bet you're going to force us to do that in the wintertime too.
Probably yes.
That's horrible.
Bring
How
your
do you
golf
make
clubs.
people go there? For those of you who don't know the joke, La Jolla is one of the most beautiful places to visit in the entire world.
Yes,
And
yes.
so, but there is a course.
Yeah, yeah. So check online at sddhc.com, and there's always new ones coming up. And Dr. Cristalis and I, the prosthodontist, are working on some good things together. So within the next year or so, we're going to see that, Glenn.
Right on.
And I'm excited, and I feel like it's a bit of a lost art, and maybe no one really to blame, but guys like you and I feel have to continue to carry that torch
Yeah,
for the betterment of all of us.
I agree. And again, I'm not pointing a finger at anybody because I'm as guilty as it of it as anybody saying this will settle in this bite. But the difference is I know occlusion to the point where I routinely will do CR, maximum
Yes.
cuspation occlusal equilibrations. And for people out there who don't do them regularly, they take 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Like they don't take an hour or two. It takes me 3 to 5 minutes to do
You
a
know where to
full
look,
occlusal
right?
equilibration. So when I say I'm doing it, it's a little different than somebody's. Well, I just like, I don't want anybody to ever quote you or me and saying, because in 1,000 years from now, when they realize that we've solved all orthodontics
Right.
problems, I don't want them to quote us and say, Bruce and Glenn said leave posterior open bites or let the bite settle in. It's okay to let the bite settle in when you decide it's okay, not just every case, or it'll just settle. The masteric sling, the occlusal, the angle, all these things play a role. And again, if you have the opportunity to learn occlusion out there through what Bruce is talking about, I would strongly suggest you at least dip your toe in the water and learn, because once you see it, it's like going into the matrix, folks.
Yep.
Once you go in, you don't want to take the other pill again. You don't want to go live in the other world, because once you understand occlusion, I don't want to say I'm a great orthodontist, because I'm not. I'm going to say ortho becomes so much easier.
Yes. Yeah.
It's kind of cool. Well, Bruce, thank you for allowing me to bring out my inner Zen, my Zen occlusion. I really appreciate you so much.
I
You're
love
such
it.
an asset to our profession. You're such an amazing human being. I hope everybody has the opportunity to learn from you. And again, thank you for being here today, my friend.
Amazing. Thank you, my friend. And come down to La Jolla.
Yeah, twist my arm.
Yeah.
I'll see you soon. I
Have a great
promise.
day. Thank you, guys.